Let's talk about patterns for a minute. A lot of the people that I work with are people who are coming into faith and believing in Jesus, maybe for the first time in their life. Maybe they believed in Jesus for a long time, but they never stepped out and put that light on a candlestick, meaning they did not follow through with water baptism. I get to witness or hear about their experiences in baptism, but there's one common pattern that I keep witnessing. And it seems that every time that someone goes through water baptism, there follows a strand of temptations after that. And some have to weather that storm for maybe weeks, months. Some end up giving in to those temptations. And then they feel like that it's hard to come back to God if they don't have people to be there for them to say, it's okay, Jesus will forgive you. Like, come back. He's already covered your sins with his blood, but come back. And sometimes they don't try to return in a life walking with Christ. I began telling people, okay, if you're going to be baptized, just know that the enemy is coming and there are many temptations that are going to hit you. Know what you're fighting. It dawned on me that's exactly what Jesus went through. Right after he was baptized by John, he was led into the wilderness to be tempted by Satan for 40 days. That's setting an example. Should we have been paying attention to that all along? We're always going to be tempted. We're not going to live in this world and not face temptations. But to know that it may very well be a full-on flex of temptations coming from the enemy right after that might actually help people to know what they're really fighting. I'm sharing this today for two reasons. One, know that up front. When you have been saved by his grace and you are baptized, expect temptation to follow. Be suited up for it. Draw closer to God. Stay in the word. It is your weapon. Keep fighting, because it's not people that you're fighting. It is the attacks laid before you from the enemy. Secondly, to the church, to the people who are supposed to be there for them through this season. Let our eyes be opened by that. This is not a matter of putting somebody under a microscope and saying, okay, well, let's see what they do now. Let's see if they stay the course or they're going to go back to their old ways. Just know they're going to be tempted with every single weakness they may have. If they're in addiction, if they are battling mental health things, if it's a toxic relationship, they're going to be attacked in every way to go back to those things. So rather than looking at them under a microscope to see what will they do next, we need to be looking up to God, covering them. There are stories in the Bible where people were saved because of their friends' faith. Sometimes they may not have enough faith in those early stage days, but it's our job to build a wall of protection around them. If you see that attack is getting the best of them, go to them, love them, encourage them. Let's change the lens, church. This is the time to hold them up with prayer, because the enemy is certainly not going to let them slide by. The other thing that I see about that is when people make it through that season of temptation, they're elevated at that moment in their purpose, their God-given assignments, their callings, whatever direction it is that God has on their life. If it were me, I would certainly hope somebody was praying for me. Sometimes people don't have anybody lifting them up in prayer, but they've got a lot of people watching them under a microscope. So adopt somebody. Adopt these new people coming up that you see stepping out to live their life for Jesus, and dedicate prayer to them while they're growing in spiritual stamina and strength of themselves. And watch how God works.